Hello and welcome to the Channels Book Club. Adeniyi and Josephine Oluwajobi, a couple who have worked with thousands of young Nigerians to help them develop leadership and communication skills, joined us to discuss why young Nigerians are not reading enough and what can be done to change that. Adeniyi and Josephine manage Eloquent Speech International, which owns the Young Public Speakers Club. Please join us after this break. Thank you for joining us on the Channels Book Club. Thank you very much for coming. Now, you're a couple, and you've done tremendously well working with young people, in schools in Nigeria. What have your experiences been like? How would you assess the Nigerian youth generally?
The Nigerian youth that I know, they are generally uninformed. The youth of Nigeria, they seem not to know the possibilities that are available within them. So they tend to look outside to see something, to bring out something that is already on the inside. So we are generally looking for solutions outside, unknown to many that the solution is actually on the inside.
That's very alarming. I mean, I know you've worked with thousands of young people, so if that's the way you sum up the Nigerian youth, that's very alarming. And from my own personal experiences, I mean, that seems to a very large extent true. Now, you run a youth club, a club for young people, and part of what you do is you inspire them, encourage them to read and to write. Can you tell us a bit about that?
The name of the club is Young Public Speakers Club for children that fall within the age of 4 years and 12 years. And what we do with them is to bring out the greatness in them. It's very good for a child to be studious and to be able to attain the future that he or she has dreamt of. But we also encourage them to do beyond their capacity, because when you do not stretch them, you can't get them to do the impossible, so to speak. So what we do is to make is that we stretch them. Sometimes they tell you, but this is not possible. Then we tell them, it is possible because you are an enigma. You can do it and you can. So we stretch them to do things that they can't imagine they could do. But at the end of the day, they see themselves doing it. That's how we're able to achieve some of them. They could achieve see themselves publish books, and some of them sing songs and do other things.
Now, I understand you get them to read a book a week, or is it a book a month?
Minimum of 1 book a month because of their schoolwork, but most of the time they go beyond 1.
They do more than 1.
They
now,
do more than
how
1.
important is this?
This is very important to them because books, when they read, they're able to use words so cheaply, so easily. And books help them to think more intelligently, and their imaginative mind is strengthened when they read a lot. Because when they read, we also tell them, come tell us what you have read. We do book review afterward because we do not believe in them just reading and consuming information and not being able to bring this information out. When they come, we assess their performance level through their communication skills, how they're able to relate what they have read, teach their mate, talk to them, and they see themselves becoming like a coach.
I've seen a few of the books published by some of those kids. What inspired that, and what are you trying to achieve, getting those children to publish their books?
Now, if I may talk, where the main vision of the club is to raise global champions. But you see, leadership as it is the major problem of Africa.
Leadership,
good leadership. We have so much deficit in the required number of well-endowed leaders. And see, the most important value of leadership is competence, capacity. And for you to develop capacity, you need to learn. And for you to learn, you have to read. And that is why every committed reader is a potential leader. And that is why it is very important, it's even compulsory. So they know these things I've told you right now. And they study the life of great leaders. So they want to be like them by doing what they did. And that is studying, reading, and not just studying for fun, not just reading for fun, but drawing learning points, applying it to their lives, and seeing that there are so many possibilities within them that they can bring out even now. And we also make them see children are not future leaders. Why must they wait for the future? Why can't they be leaders right now? And that is what we have done.
Is it a fact that you can't be a great leader without being a reader? Is that a fact?
If you look at the great leaders, you will find this common factor, common strength among them. They are learners. They are learners. Even those who didn't really have so much of schooling, because learning is also different from schooling. Schooling is just for a time. Learning is for a lifetime.
So somebody might argue that, okay, yeah, the children can learn, but reading is not the only way they can learn. I mean, if somebody says that,
If somebody says that, yes.
isn't that a valid argument?
Now, it looks valid. But you see, the greatest truth that you can learn in life, it comes through reading. It comes through reading. Things are hidden in books. There's nothing, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. How many of those things can you make into movies? How many of them can you make into games? I've seen so many games that people call educative games. It has nothing to hard. That's why people play those games. You don't get results in their lives. But give a child a book to read. It affects his perspective. He begins to have new possibilities. You see him think differently from those who don't. The first and fundamental area, channel of learning is reading.
From the work you've done with young people, why are they not reading enough? What's going on?
Generally, the reading culture has diminished so much. And one of the real reasons behind that is because the reward for reading is no longer fascinating. For example, in Nigeria here, we read to pass exams. And that is why more than 80% of every graduate in Nigeria,
That's serious.
after graduating, never read a book cover to cover.
More than 80%.
More than 80%. So we have lost it. And you go to school, you pass out for the purpose of getting a job. And you and I know what the employment market is talking about. So when you see that if you go to school and then you come out with good grades, there is no guarantee that there is a job waiting for you. And the only reason why you went to school in the first place was to get a job. So what happens? You don't feel like reading anymore.
Is that a failure of our schooling system or a failure of parents? Where do we place that blame?
I think it's a matter of foresight on the part of everyone. Every parent tells their children to read because there is a good job somewhere. Because good jobs, they drop from the sky. The government that possibly should be providing jobs. Because see, it's a worry to me when you look at the enrollment in primary school. Something should tell you that if this number of people enrolled in primary school, in another 10 years, or so to speak, they will likely need a tertiary institution. You know the capacity of the current tertiary institutions. And you know these people, they are already too much for that, for what we currently have on ground. So somebody somewhere is not thinking straight, and it's everybody's problem. Even despite all that, the parents are still saying, see, go to school, get a good grade, and then you get a good job, and then you'll be comfortable. We are not tilting towards entrepreneurship. We are not encouraging learning. People just study to pass. So that you can get a meal ticket, you get employed.
And they are definitely not passing because the last WAEC result tells us they are not passing.
Woeful.
You know, so if they are reading to pass and they are not passing, then it's a major problem we have on our hands, isn't it?
Yes,
Mm. Okay, that's interesting. Now, what kind of advice will you give to parents on how to encourage young people, their children particularly, to read, to learn better?
You can't tell a child to do a thing you are not practicing. You have to really push that child to do what you do not practice yourself.
So parents should read
Of
themselves.
course.
I like that a lot. I recommend that
Yeah,
highly.
you have to model. You have to model. You have to be a role model to these children. There was a day I saw a young boy of about 7 years in his father's car behind. His driver was driving him to school. It was very early in the morning. This boy was just so fascinated with his papers. He was reading the newspaper, as though he was given an assignment to study that paper and bring out some solutions for something. And I said in my mind, I said, that someone must have been doing this for this child to take this posture. And God is so interested in this. So we want parents to model, be a role model. We have parents who have done that before. We still set example of the popular Ben Carson's mother. Although she wasn't educated, but she tried. Sometimes she behaves as if she's reading. So the fact that you do not like reading doesn't mean your child shouldn't. Pretend to be a reader, but just model after them. Another thing is that parents should instruct their children. Yeah, it's good to give them some leeway, but sometimes you need to instruct them.
Sometimes you have